Welcome to Component 3 AMC. These lessons are in 5 sections. You've got break even, section 2, 3 and 4 is cash flow, so you could technically call that one section, and then the final one is sources of business finance. So this one is a shorter learning aim than the learning aim B, but we've got meatier topics to get through, and we're going to break them down for you as we go through. So in this break-even one, we've got the theory, and then part 2 of break-even, we will then be looking at some of the analysis that you do with break-even. The helps are going to come from the little blobby alien things. I think you know where they're from. Let's carry on then. Learning intention for AMC is to construct and interpret a break-even chart and recognise its limitations. So for this part, we're looking at constructing and interpreting the break-even chart, and then you're going to go through knowing it, being able to calculate it, and being able to plot it. Those are the stages we go through in order to complete the learning intention. The vocabulary today are break-even, fixed and variable costs, which we covered in lesson 11 and lesson 5 of AIM B. And we've got total costs. That was also lesson 11. Feel free to have a revision. That was the Toy Story one. And what we need to get done and achieve in this lesson is being able to identify break-even, calculating it, and being able to draw your own as well. Here we go. Here's question 1. It's find the write the definition of break-even. Now, if we think about it, break even, well, let's think about some of the things that we've done. We've looked at sales, we've looked at costs. So breaking even, it's the point at which when an enterprise has made enough money through their sales to cover all their costs. So if their costs were £100 and they've made enough sales which are worth £100, they've covered their cost. If they've made enough profit to say £105, they've covered their cost and got £5 extra. But we're not on about that bit. We're on about sales suggesting of £100 and cost of £100. They balance, they equal, they effectively equal 0. That's what we're talking about. The point at which there is no loss and no profit. Question 2. Give the formula for break-even. Now the formula requires the answer, the equal sign and the calculation. You need to provide the full formula, and we'll have a think about this. We need to look at covering fixed cost, we need to look at sales price, we need to look at variable cost. We're also going to use brackets as well. So we need to look at a fixed cost divided by sales price per unit. That's the retail price, and then we subtract the variable costs, which are the product costs, and we use that within the brackets as the dividing into fixed cost, and that gives you, remember, it doesn't give you a pound, it gives you the number of units that are sold, and that's the bit you're going to have to remember. The answer is in the number of units. Units is a generic term meaning whatever product you're investigating. Question 3 then, this is the first one in action. You need to use the formula to find the break-even point. That is the point of what we're doing for, sorry that's a really bad joke, for this business. The business is a pet food company who operates several shops across the UK. The owners estimate the running costs, lesson 11, for one shop to be in the region of £60,000 per month. The average value of sales per customer who visits the shop is £55, with variable costs per sale of £12. How many customers does the pet food company need to visit its shops each month in order to break even? That's a lot of description. You need the numbers. So I recommend the very first thing you do is write the formula in the box at the bottom. Once you've got the formula, then you will actually find slotting the numbers in the right place a breeze. Now if you remember, we need fixed costs divided by sales price minus variable cost. There you go. Question 4. Let's have another practice at that. We've got Tyler and his photography business. Tyler wants to accept orders for photographing weddings. he needs to calculate the number of weddings he needs to take and go to photograph so that he can break even. So Tyler is using this as a forecasting tool. You've got the three figures: fixed cost £2,520, variable per wedding £220, and average selling price per wedding £850. You've got the three figures, so use the same practice of writing the formula down first and then slotting the numbers in. Use the box below. Question 5, Tilly, and question 6, Daryl. Then here we go. Tilly in question 5 has a cake shop with fixed cost of £500. Each cupcake she sells costs her 80 pence to make, and she sells each cupcake for £2. Use the break-even formula to calculate her break-even point. So we've got the break-even formula, if you remember: fixed cost divided by sales price per unit minus variable cost per unit. There you go, rattled out those numbers for you. Write the formula, write the numbers underneath, and you'll find that easier to deal with. Question 6, you've got Daryl, who's running a world famous fishing tours company in Budleigh Salterton. Do you need to know that? Does it really matter? The business has fixed costs of £200 per month. It spends £4 in bait lines. So it spends, so that is a cost of product, so that's a variable cost. And when he takes the customers out on a trip, he charges each customer £15 per fishing trip. So you've got the numbers, they've just changed the words. Instead of looking for sales price and variable cost, you've got spend on each visit, that's the bait line, the £4, and you've got £15 as the charge, which is another way of saying sales price. So you've got a little bit of exam techniques in terms of breaking down the numbers. You need to use the break-even formula. Guess what? Write the formula down, slot the numbers underneath, and you'll find that far more straightforward. Question 7. Zainab runs a flower arranging business. The business has fixed costs of £600 per month. Each bouquet of flowers costs her on average £7 to produce, and she charges customers £12. £600, £7 and £12. Those are the numbers you need. Write the break-even formula and calculate how many bouquets of flowers she needs to sell in order to break even. Question 8 and 9 are all about the break-even chart on the left. We need to get a bit more scientific. There we go, we've got an alien thing in a hazmat. There's science for you. Question 8. What do each of the three lines on a break-even chart represent? That is the green line, the red line, not the one where I've written variable cost, it's the long red line, and the blue line. You need to name each of the lines in the left-hand box on question 8. I don't want blue line written on there. You need to actually give me the correct name, and guess what? I've given you the names below, so you can move those text boxes into the name of the line squares, and then on the right hand side you actually then write the meaning of each. So all the vocabulary is given to you, and I've given you a massive clue by writing in variable cost for you, which should help explain the green and blue in between the two of them, which should then tell you what green is and what blue is. Question 9, on the break-even chart, break-even is achieved at which point? So for this one, this does rely on you accurately labelling the red line and the blue line, and hopefully when you've got the red line labelled accurately, you'll understand why it crosses through and goes higher than the blue line. And the reason it crosses over, that's called the break-even point. Question 10, we're back on the break-even chart. This is to make sure you know every inch of that chart, because some questions could be that you need to draw it from scratch as well. So what we need to look at now are the X and Y axes. So you need to remember which way round they go, and in your own words, Don't copy the words from the chart. This is about you explaining in your own words what the x-axis represents and then what the y-axis represents. Writing it in your own words will ensure that you know it whatever break-even chart you have been given. Right, we're on the last slide and here are the last questions. We've still got that break-even chart because we really need to know that chart inside out. Question 11 then. Where does the total revenue line begin? We're now looking at the red line and the answer isn't naught, even though it begins at naught. The answer is a description of what naught represents. So you have to write that description in the box on question 11. Question 12. On the break-even chart, where does the total cost line begin? This is quite key. This is the point where it joins the green line. So go back to the slide 8 and you should be able to see your definitions. I've given you the words there as well. That should give you a clue as to why it begins on top of the green line. Question 13, the last question for this lesson. What do the areas to the left and right of the break-even point represent? So cast your eyes on the break-even chart. To make life easier so we can, for this lesson, I've actually put in some skinny blue triangles. We're talking about those sections. We're talking about the one on the left and the one on the right. Your job is to actually describe what each of those areas mean. So this is about you understanding what the blue line means and what the blue line means in relation to the red line for the left triangle. Then it crosses over, I'll give you a clue, the break-even point, and then the red line changes position in relation to the blue line. So you need to explain what that blue triangle means. Well done, you've made it to the end of lesson 1 on component 3 aim C. This is your first part of break-even and we've covered 4 main areas: the definition of break-even, the formula, we've practiced calculating it and drawing and making sure you know each part of a break-even chart. Well done.